And hopefully, okay, here we go.
Right.
Tarantula Girl coming to you from my inside studio. I'm here doing a live interview with the handsome California, Mr. Michael Renau with ADD Reptiles. And he's just a really amazing guy. I actually discovered him on YouTube, which he will tell you that his YouTube channel is not very big and he's not done a whole lot. But what I've seen was impressive in my opinion. So that's actually how I discovered him. And then, of course, I saw an interview that Brian Cusco did at his place, and I was like, dang, that's a sweet little setup. So hello, Michael. How are you doing today?
Very well. And yourself?
I am doing so great. I'm just
Awesome.
really excited to be visiting with you today. And I love monitors, and you're into monitors. You do kind of a diverse, you have kind of a diverse collection. And one thing that really fascinated me about your place was how you've really capitalized on the space that you have. Because a lot of people feel like, oh, well, I don't have an acre of land, so I can't do monitors, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. And what I've seen, you've been very resourceful and been the tools that you've used have been very effective. So you're obviously a genius.
Obviously, to a certain extent. But yeah, like you mentioned, I definitely make the best of the space that I do have. California isn't maybe the friendliest place for outdoor caging for some of these animals, but I've definitely found workarounds. Most of my caging still is indoors, but I do have some animals outside, ones that will tolerate this kind of weather, the dryness, and then also the cold winter. And yeah, I've had pretty good success. I've been working with monitors. My first one was a Savannah monitor back in, I want to say 2007. So I'd like to think I have a little bit of experience, and there's awesome lizards. Probably one of my favorite type of lizard. I also keep blue-tongued skinks. I keep some iguanids. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. That's kind of where the ADD Reptiles thing comes in, just because I don't really have focus like most breeders do. I kind of just, well, that's a cool animal, so why not? I'll give it a shot. So, and I have success here and there with breeding. If they don't breed, then that's fine. They're most of my animals I keep as pets, and I think if I thought of this as a business, I'd go broke really, really quick. So this
Yeah.
is more of, I like to keep it as more of a hobby. I used to do some of the shows, and they were pretty fun, but just a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of effort put into the shows themselves. And then, obviously, the care for the animals, that's a whole thing in itself. So a lot of challenges, and I think that's what keeps it interesting is even after so long working with them, I'm constantly learning new things, exploring new husbandry methods and such, trying to solve problems. So it definitely helps keep things interesting.
So, around what year was ADD founded, and what was your founding stock of the animals that you started with?
So I started the company originally with my wife. She actually came up with the name. I thought it was pretty silly at first, but then after struggling for maybe another month after that, I realized, okay, this is probably the best we got to go off of at this point. But I started the company, I want to say, back in 2015. And when we first started out, I was already breeding Woma pythons regularly. I always had really good success with those. I was doing blue tongue skinks, northern blue tongues, and kind of just went from there. And I always had little projects here and there. I was doing green basilisks randomly, then moved on to monkey tail skinks. I had my first baby last year. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Burmese python. I had a friend lend me out one of his males, and I had eggs for the first time in 2017. So a lot of fun stuff.
That's cool. So, it sounds like maybe you have a fascination for some of the larger stuff. I heard Burmese pythons. I know you work with monitors. What's your favorite animal, and what's your totally no holds barred bucket list animal?
So definitely a tough question, because a lot of my animals I've had for so many years, so it's kind of tough choosing between. But I guess one that holds a special place in my heart is definitely my male white throat Sizzler. And he's had some health issues recently, so it's kind of hard seeing him go through something like that. But I raised him up. I got him back in 2010. I still had the receipt, actually. And he's only ever bit me once, and it was when I first got him. And he's just a huge sweetheart. I can show him to you guys in a little bit. So he's a great animal. And then also probably my albino Burn Twinkie, who I've also had, I think, since 2009. So her anniversary with me is coming up pretty soon in August.
Awesome.
So those are probably if I had to choose, I feel bad. There's some other animals behind me giving me the stink eye after saying that.
Don't listen, other animals.
But so those two animals definitely hold a special place in my heart. And as far as my all-time bucket list animal, I would say it would probably be a Parenti. I've only ever, actually at the Los Angeles Zoo, we have a pair of them right now, and they're just awesome animals. The first time I ever saw them was in Australia, and they just have a look unlike any other monitor species. Just beautiful animals. You can tell, like, just looking in their eyes, the intelligence staring back at you. It's just a really awesome animal to be around. So, and that's kind of, the kind of stuff that I go after is the stuff that's unfortunately not really readily available in the U.S. So that's why I seem to gravitate more towards the Australian species.
So, I wanted to give, we've got quite a few people up here chatting it up. So I just want to say hello to John, Aaron, Richard, Stephen, Matt. We've got a couple people that are just kind of saying, hey, what's up? I love spiders. They're saying hi to you and hi to me. So thanks, guys, for jumping on and making sure that you're watching the live. I always think that makes it more fun. So obviously, you have traveled to Australia. Have you done very much traveling abroad?
Not so much after having a kid, but the Australia trip was definitely my favorite trip that I've been on thus far. It was a trip of a lifetime. I went back in 2014 in mid-April, which is kind of like their wet season.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've found everything under the sun between, venomous colubrids, brown snakes, taipans, lace monitors, blue-tongue skinks, bearded dragons, the whole 9 yards. So it was a trip of a lifetime. I would highly recommend if anybody ever has a chance to go out there. It's a huge country. There's a lot of beautiful stuff to see. And if you ever get the chance, I highly recommend it.
Awesome. We just had a couple more people, Jody and Ross from South Africa. So that's always fun when we have internationals watching. So now you work with lace monitors, am I correct?
Lace monitor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's just the one currently. But she's a great pet. No plans on breeding her in the future. That was another species that I fell in love with when I went to Australia. I actually tried pouncing on top of one. Didn't work out. The thing was up a tree before I even hit the ground. But they're just beautiful animals. Even the normals, that's probably one of my next bucket list animals. When I I guess. Yeah, it's great seeing animals like that you never really saw before become a little bit more widely available. And there's no reason why they shouldn't be more readily available in the hobby. I think there's a lot of people breeding them right now. And I've always kind of had issues with the Australia no export laws that they have, especially with animals that aren't considered an endangered species. I think we're kind of losing out on that, but I think we're slowly building up our stock here.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we could go on for hours about how legislature to protect animals very often hurts them, especially in the way that it infringes on the captive populations. And like I said, we could go on for days about that. But Yeah, no, I mean, the Lacey Act, I feel like in American government has been misused for a long time. And yeah, we could seriously get off on a crazy tangent, but I feel a serious responsibility to work with as many animals as we can in captivity, work out the bugs on breeding them. I think we should be reproducing them as much as possible. And
Yeah.
I personally do believe that we should still be collecting from the wild on a very small scale because um, in order to protect our captive populations, ultimately protecting the wild populations, we do need those, a diverse genetic bloodline. But
Right.
I mean, now I know lots of people who used to what I used to call rape the wild, where they'd go out in the field, they would collect everything they could, they would flip rocks, leave them undone, undig burrows, and I mean it was just like a destruction, and they would collect anything and everything, whether or not they could keep it alive, whether or not they had a use for it, whether or not it was protected. And I don't know, I personally believe that the laws sometimes hurt the populations. I know that I absolutely see the purpose in them, and think that we should have laws to protect animals, but obviously the system is not perfect, and so I don't know.
Right.
There's
Yeah, and
no
I
easy
mean it
answer for
almost,
sure.
yeah, it almost does make more sense for certain species, like for example, Chinese crocodile lizards. In their native countries of China and Vietnam, currently there's zero conservation being done at all.
Right.
So if anything, I mean they're used in traditional Chinese medicine, which is a whole nother
Yeah.
story. But there's no reason why we shouldn't remove them from the wild if there's nothing being done to conserve them anyway, and then just breed them, in captivity, increase their numbers
Right.
that way. So get the,
Well,
get a good bloodline going. But yeah, like you
there
said,
are
it's definitely a very controversial subject, and you have like the Endangered Species Act that also causes issues. So there's a lot of things right now that I think we could be doing a little bit better to help maintain these animals in the wild for sure. So that's always I always get that's one of the questions I get from non-reptile people. Oh, would don't you think this animal would be happier out in the wild? And I finally came up with the perfect answer for it. Is I don't know. All I do know is they have access to fresh, clean water whenever they want. They get fed regularly. There's no predators for them to worry about. So in that respect, I think they are happier. So, but who
right.
knows?
Well, and realistically, all animals have an instinct to survive. A lot of the behaviors that they
Right.
have are ultimately to survive. If them living in captivity results in a longer lifespan, almost guaranteed reproduction, medical care, food, water, I mean,
Exactly.
I don't know that animal's going, my land of origin would be so much better. I mean, most of the animals that we have were born into captivity, so I don't know that they ever feel deprived or know a difference. I wouldn't imagine that they do. Um,
Right.
I mean, I love the wilderness, but I wouldn't want to live in the wild. I
Yeah.
wouldn't like it.
Right. Yeah, and
Uh,
that's also kind of, I guess, my one of my methods is a lot of people try and replicate an animal's habitat as close as possible, even though there's some potentially harmful things in that habitat. So I almost like my method is always kind of being exploiting being in captivity by having perfect conditions and basically being able to enhance the wellness of the animal in that respect. So
right.
that's kind of one of my ways that I keep, definitely I feel strongly about.
Yeah. Interesting. And unfortunately, a lot of the legislatures that are making these decisions are not educated in the animals that they're making decisions about or the people who are keeping them. I
Hmm.
really need to apologize for the mess in the background. I've been building incubators. You can see I've got two going on, but anyway, that's unrelated. Somebody did jump on from San Fernando Valley, which, if I'm not mistaken, is right where you are.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And Gotta Love Carpet Pythons is on, talking about that, you know, the importance of the breeding in captivity and all that, you know, stuff, which is, this is a really interesting person, somebody who I'm hoping to interview soon. Gotta Love Carpet Pythons. So, yeah, that breeder is going to be on my list. But so let's see. What would you say is the focus of your company at this point?
So the focus of my company right now, obviously having a child changes everything.
Yes.
I'm not able to focus on certain projects like I used to be able to. And that's where I got very lucky is, you know, after a certain point, I realized this isn't a one-man job. And especially, you know, once my wife got pregnant, she couldn't help anymore. So I went through several different employees, most of which are now close friends.
Yeah.
Currently, I have my friend. We actually met at a bar. She works at the bar, and so she helps out 2 days a week. And I'd be lost without her because she gets everything done by herself. You know, she's very dependable, and I'm very lucky to have her because this is not a one-man operation by any means.
I hear
So
that.
right now, my focus right now is to kind of more focus on what I have when before I was kind of, you know, trying to get new acquisitions and, oh, let's see how, you know, if I can work with this animal, if I can get this one to breed. And so now I want to focus more on kind of upgrading all of my enclosures, my setups. I have a lot of new ideas for husbandry methods that I want to try out for certain species. So that's my method right now, is to kind of try and bring myself more into the current, you know, modern way of keeping. So
Okay. So tell us a little bit about that and how your care has kind of evolved through the years, because you've been in it a while.
yeah. So I've always kind of tried to keep my terrariums a little bit more naturalistic.
Uh-huh.
But after a certain point, especially with monitors, it doesn't make sense to have, you know, planted enclosures just because, you know, even the plastic plants, I mean, they'll rip them to shreds within a couple of months. And
Yeah.
so if you do look at some of my cages, they're a little bit unkempt. But yeah, it's always a struggle trying to keep everything maintained with monitors. You know, they break stuff
I'd like
very
to
easily.
point out the enclosures are just the way the monitors want them, not
Mhm.
necessarily the way we want them.
Exactly. They definitely move things around, arrange them in their favor.
Yeah.
But so I started out with melamine cages just because I had a guy that custom made them. Horrible decision. I would never recommend working with melamine. It's expensive as all heck, and it warps. The wood damage from humidity and water is just horrible. So right now I just created a new cage design, which is just plywood. It's all treated and epoxied. So I'm going to try that out. Hopefully that'll give me better results. It's much heavier than my old cage design, but so I also do a Mist King misting system.
Mm,
I try and automate my operation as much as possible, just to make open myself to more time.
right.
Not having to spend you know half an hour each day having to mist down everything is a huge benefit. So Mist King, I would definitely recommend people with more tropical environments to look into that. Also, I actually ended up developing my own controller system for the cages. I got tired. What I used to do is I had everything plugged into like a few different power strips all over the place.
Uh-huh.
So each morning when I woke up, I would have to go and turn each and every single one on. And it was just a huge hassle. So I was able to automate that. And so my controller, it basically controls temperature to a certain set point, and it regulates to that. And then after, I have it set so at a certain time it turns on in the morning and it gently ramps up, and then it keeps that temperature, and then at night it tapers off and then it turns off. So that's that system, and it's been a blessing. Same thing with nighttime heat. I have 2 separate fixtures in all my enclosures, one for daylight, daytime heat, and then one for nighttime heat. And then also at nighttime, I have my nighttime heat to set to trigger whenever the temperature drops below a certain threshold. So that's extremely helpful. I've also upgraded my UV from the old T8s, which I don't want to start another tangent, but I think that the reptile community is definitely kind of living. We're kind of in the past with a lot of the technology that we still use. I mean, T8 bulbs are completely obsolete.
Right.
Anywhere you go, nobody uses them anymore, and for good reason. They're more expensive to make. They don't produce as much UV as some of the other units like T5 and halogen. Um, so it's a huge help switching over to T5s. I use Arcadia bulbs. I messed around with some other ones, but I found Arcadia to be the best, most accurate UV and consistent UV. I also have a UV meter, a UVI, so it gives you the actual reading. I think that's another thing that monitor keepers or reptile keepers in general. UV is also a huge necessity for them. I've had people argue otherwise, but I think it's completely ridiculous not offering, a diurnal animal not having any UV for them.
Right.
This is like going back to like the 70s where people still thought it was okay keeping savanna monitors in tubs. It's like, what are we doing? We're supposed to be advanced thought here. So, I mean, and you observe them in the wild and you see their environments, how they respond to certain things, and that's why I've gotten a lot of my husbandry just observing them in the wild and doing significant research and making sure that all the care is proper for them.
Wow, that's incredible. So if you ever want to just build a second one of those and ship it to me, totally
There's
fine.
a lot of politics behind that too. It's kind of one of those unfinished things where it works for me just because I know how to use it. It's by no means a releasable product. I actually ended up firing the entire software team that developed the software for it.
Oh, wow.
So I had big plans for it. It was actually it's the first. I don't want to say first, but currently it would be the only wireless reptile controller on the market, and a cheap one at that for what it is. But I think we're definitely lacking of something like that. I had great plans to use it in like aquarium industry as well and hydroponics.
Yeah.
It's very universal with its use. So I think there's a huge gap in you have entry level controllers, the smaller Zoom Ed or the Zilla ones, and there's nothing wrong with them. There's just so much more potential for you have like Vivarium Electronics and higher end companies like the Herbstat that have more features, but none of them have wireless capability. And that was always my thing was I'm just super anal. I'd be terrified of, I'd go on vacation and the first 2 or 3 days, I'd just be a nervous wreck because, what the heck is going on at the house with the animals? Is everything cool? And then after a few days, I'd say, screw it. They're probably fine, whatever. And then I'd actually be able to enjoy my vacation.
Yeah.
But I always just figured if you had that peace of mind where you'd be able to go on your phone and check, the monitor, the now monitor's cage, it's at, 70% humidity and it's at 85 degrees right now. Awesome. Everything's good. No worries. So I always thought that was something that would be a great tool for us keepers as well going into the future.
I would highly encourage you to continue working on that because, I mean, the peace of mind alone that you would get from that, not to mention the convenience, I mean, that's nearly priceless. I imagine people would be willing to pay a lot for that product. So when you have your first prototype, send it to me.
I will do. Hopefully the project will get picked up again.
Yeah,
I designed it from my day job. So I was kind of hoping to be like the Tony Stark of the reptile industry, but I guess there's still time. We'll see. So
definitely,
hopefully it'll get picked back up in the near future.
So
yeah, another one of my random projects that my friends always laugh at me like, you're always like doing some kind of weird project, always something. So
I totally hear that. People ask me what I do, for a living, and I give them a list of things, and they're just like, "Oh, okay." I mean, it's
mhm.
unexpected, but it's there are people like us that are thinkers, we're doers, we're creative, and you're never content. I mean, I would never be content just going to work for 8 hours, coming home and watching television. I mean,
Yeah,
that's just
exactly.
not a stimulating existence, and so many people do it, and they're not living a healthy lifestyle, and they're not. I mean, it's like the human mind has so much potential, and I mean, it's not like I'm doing great things, but I try. I'm working on
Mhm.
it every day.
Well, and things like this, where you're actually hopefully encouraging people, enticing them into the hobby and also educating them at the same time. And that's kind of where I do get a lot of criticism for some of the stuff that, some mistakes that I make, but I love owning up to my mistakes. I always do. And my hope is that, somebody else will be able to see that and then later on, hopefully avoid
Right.
the same issues. So I think it's very important as a community to have an open forum like that where um, people should not be scared or embarrassed to come to a community and ask a entry level question, or hey, this is my setup, what do you guys think, without getting jumped on, pounced on immediately and yelled at and saying that this is horrible, you're an idiot, whatever. So
Right.
I think being able to have intelligent, civilized interactions in this community is a key thing, in being able to keep us together as a group.
Definitely.
Definitely.
So, my next question, because I'm a teacher, I always want to know what area people's formal education is, what you do
Hmm.
for work, and if you plan to go full time with animals at some point, or because I don't think you're there yet.
Yeah, so I did try the full time thing, and it's extremely difficult. Not only the time it takes to, well, it depends on what you're looking to do. I mean, there's the zoological institution, which I would say is a completely different level of not keeping standards. The two fields don't really interact
Right.
very much, and I would say even not very well. But yeah, there's huge contrast between the hobby and the institution part of it. But
Right.
I definitely I worked at the Santa Barbara Zoo for about a year. Got a whole bunch of experience from there, not just from reptiles, but other animals as well. So that's a great place if anybody ever gets a chance up in Santa Barbara in California. They have an excellent volunteering program. It's very easy to get in. You'll learn more there than you will ever at a pet store or anything like that. Um, but once I started getting more into, I guess, the more expensive stuff, I realized this is something I'm going to be having to make more money from another source to be able to feed the monkeys, so to speak.
Right.
So that's where I decided to go full time into my day job, and then do this as like a side gig. And it's nice because there's not so much pressure in it, but then at the same time, whenever I do breed animals, like right now, I have a rack full of womas. The hobby almost pays for itself. Like, once those babies sell off, I can go take a nice vacation after that or whatever from the
Right.
profits. So it's nice being able to have this additional income when you are breeding animals, or, sometimes you get trades from other people, or,
Hmm.
you'll buy an animal you see cheap on the classifieds or whatever, then flip it. So there's definitely a lot of different ways to be able to make money in the hobby. It kind of just depends on how much time you're willing to put in. Even, I mean, so I'm sure, the tarantula girl, I'm sure you're very familiar with other bugs. Most of when I went to the trade shows, the reptile shows, most of my profit actually came from feeders, believe it or not.
Oh yeah, I believe.
And yeah, so I would kind of undercut people for like the hissing roaches. I think I started a colony from rainbow mealworms that I received, like a colony of 100 of them within a year. I had 1,000 of these things easily. And I
Yeah.
started out with a single tub, and I got maybe out of that, I had 5 other tubs. And so I was like, I got to really do something with these guys. So I ended up selling them. And my wife always laughs at me about this, but I'm so nerdy that I spent 3 entire months devising the perfect roach chow formula. And by the growth of my colonies at the time, you could definitely tell this stuff worked. And so I sold that at the show, along with the the feeders, the water crystals, the egg crate, and there's a huge market for it. I mean, the hissers especially, the prices are pretty crazy on them sometimes, but they're for monitor people especially. I mean, it's very difficult getting anything larger than that in terms of insect diet. So they're a staple, definitely, in feeding your monitors. When you try and shy away from a all-exclusive rodent diet, they're
Right.
definitely great. Mm-hmm.
Well, and interestingly, there are plenty of people who like to keep a colony of hissers just as pets.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, roaches aren't my very most favorite thing in the world, but they're definitely an amazing feeder. And like I said, they, a lot of people who, I don't know, maybe it's a kid who lives in an apartment and their parents aren't ready to take that step even to a kitten or whatever. I mean, and other,
Mm-hmm.
also bugs are really fascinating. So a lot of people just appreciate them for what they are. No, I absolutely, the market for feeders is actually in general greater than the actual product. I remember when I did my
Mm-hmm.
show with Ahmad from Aussie Boets, he was talking about he's gotten into rodent breeding and he's going to actually start a franchise. And he was talking
Right.
about how the rodent business is far more lucrative than the snake business. Maybe not as
Oh
glamorous,
yeah. Yeah.
but if you're really breeding snakes, you know that it's not glamorous most days. Most days you're sweaty, dusty, you've been
Mm-hmm.
bitten, you're, literally cleaning snake poop and whatever else. But I mean, to me, all of that nitty gritty is worth it when you're getting to know your animals, you're spending time with amazing animals, and
Mm-hmm.
learning more from them every single week. So I don't know. I'm crazy, but I'm one of those people who enjoys the day to day most of the time. Don't get me wrong, I get cranky on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Me too. Definitely. I mean, it's hard work at sometimes. And yeah. You're saying dirty, sweaty, all that, but there's a deep sense of satisfaction at the end of the day after that when your all of your setups are spotless. You feel like you can eat off the floor in your reptile room, and then you're ready to just go take a nice cold shower and be done with
Yep.
it. It's just a very satisfactory feeling at the end of the day after having spent that working with animals all day. So
Yeah, I
very
mean,
rewarding.
I find animals to be very incredible. And like I said, you can always learn more from them. So give us a quick rundown of kind of what you're keeping now and what you hope to do. Well, you said right now you're kind of maintaining, but what are some projects you might like to get into in the future, maybe when your little one's older?
Sure. So right now I'm keeping mostly monitor species. I have my white throat monitor pair that lives outside. They're a little bit older. I have my Argus monitor who also lives outside. She's also a little old. Then I got my Croc monitor back here. She's about 2 years old. Still pretty feisty. Working on.
I was going to
It's a little bit
say,
difficult with the lack of time being
oh,
able to
pretty handleable for
interact
a
with
crop,
everybody.
though.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I I haven't. It's still a pretty new animal, and I'm still kind of unfamiliar with their, I guess, body language. Their posturing and everything.
Right.
So, but every other monitor species, I mean, it's pretty easy for me to walk up to one and be like, "Oh, okay, this one's fine to scoop up," or "But that one's gonna get me whipped for sure," or "This one's gonna bite me for sure." So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, and then I have my monkey tail skinks, of course. I've kind of narrowed down the snake collection. I have my Woma trio that breeds every year. I have my albino olive pythons, who I was hoping would breed for the first time this year, but I did get 3 locks this year, but no eggs. The female's looking extremely fat, so I'm thinking it might actually be time to get an X-ray on her.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. But besides that, I'm just raising up a few Burmese pythons to breed back to my old albino girl Twinkie, and so that's kind of what I'm working with right now. I have all my tortoises. I just put my Aldabra out in my backyard, and he's loving it. He's growing like a weed ever since I put him outside. I have my radiated tortoises in my little tortoise pen that I built. They'll probably be due for outdoor enclosure soon. So that's kind of what I'm trying to. I've always wanted to move into more outdoor stuff, just to keep it more natural. And I have a big hillside. That's my part of my property, and I thought it would be really easy to build enclosures up on there. I was extremely wrong about that. It's not easy. It is not easy building cages on a hillside, but we'll get it done eventually. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to do next for my next projects, is move into more outdoor stuff. That controller I developed that I told you about has made keeping outdoor stuff a lot easier. And another tangent, I'm working on building a tank for my 2-year-old for his birthday. So that's kind of what's in the future, expanding my horizons from reptiles into fish now. So
Awesome.
and I was hoping maybe to do like kind of like a cohab tank at first, maybe like turtle, maybe even put some, like my crocodile skinks in there, but we decided to go with salt. So
okay.
maybe in the future.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of what we have going on right now in the shop.
So I always like to talk about when I'm interviewing someone, their business, and the animals that they work with, but also to kind of touch a little bit on the personal side, because obviously you're not just a businessman and a breeder, but you have a family as well. So
Right.
I was just wanting to touch a little bit on your wife's feeling about the animals and the business, and kind of how you juggle having a toddler and a family, and being an entrepreneur as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, so I guess the best way to answer that is just to give you a rundown of my day.
Okay.
So it starts at 5:30 a.m. I try and have all of the food dishes washed and ready to go before that. So I feed all the veggie eaters in the morning, turn on some lights, open up some cages outside, and then I get to work around 7 a.m. Get there early, leave early around 3:30, and I come home, and my wife is usually a stay-at-home wife, so she's taking care of the kids. So then he gets, handed over to me. It's like, all right, here you go.
Your turn.
I'm gonna go, do my thing now or whatever. And so then between entertaining him and we have 4 dogs and 1 cat, so they got to eat at some point as well. And then we got to eat ourselves. So that's usually the end of the day right there. And then there's time left for maybe a little bit of reptile interaction. I try and get my kid, interacting with them whenever I can. He's still learning about the gentle part and the no, don't stick your finger in that mouth.
Yes.
But you can tell he's already got a huge passion. Like I said, I'm doing the saltwater tank specifically for him because he's obsessed with fish. But so yeah, same thing with the reptiles. He'll run up and point, get all excited, and so I'm teaching him how to gently pet and everything and respect their space. So I'm hoping that I can use him as slave labor later on.
Hey, that's
get him
the way to do
interested
it.
and yeah, get him interested in it, get some help. Luckily, I was very blessed. My wife, she used to complain a little bit about me spending a little bit more, too much time with the animals, but she's always had a passion for them herself. She really cares about them and cares for their well-being. So I'm very lucky to have somebody that understands. We did set boundaries, like, okay, no reptiles in the house, none in the house, outside, in the garage, in the basement. That's it. So,
Okay.
and I've adhered to those terms. So, you know, getting a middle ground, I think, is very important.
I agree. Yeah, that's, I mean, in, you know, your personal relationships, first of all, I mean, obviously there has to be compromise. I highly encourage people who are kind of obsessed with animals to, you know, they say, oh, I want to get married or I want to have a partner. Obviously, try and pair with someone who at least shares your interest in the animals, even if they're not maybe as passionate as you. You know, try, because I know people who, you know, they are running their business, they are doing great with their animals, they wind up pairing with someone who hates the animals, and that they wind up either losing their relationship or their business. And I don't know, it just seems unfortunate. But so that's really great that you guys have found a common ground.
Yeah, I agree. If you could at least find somebody then that can respect the hobby, you know, where they understand, okay, I see that this gives you pleasure and enjoyment. So, you know, I'll let you, I might not want to be a part of it, but you know, I'll let you continue with that, and I won't, you know, have any issues with it. So
Right.
that's definitely, especially with the reptiles. I mean, you know, we try and do the best we can in educating people, but it's almost, especially with snakes, like a biblical fear. You know, you're born with the fear of snakes just because of something that you don't understand, really.
Absolutely. So I wanted to give a quick shout out. I'm looking over here at my other monitor. Some more people have joined us from Mexico, Canada, the UK. Dale, Ross, Nicola. Gotta love carpet pythons has been all over it. Sissy, Dale, Silly Snakes. Sally Owen is from the UK. She's saying hi. So you guys are awesome. Thank you for being here. A lot of people just saying hi. And so I'm curious now if we might have the privilege of getting a quick little tour and maybe seeing some animals.
Yeah, sure, we can certainly do that. So
Awesome.
let me go ahead and flip this guy.
Now, Michael did warn me before we began that some of the enclosures are kind of under renovation. So don't judge him. He's, you know, his place is a work in progress, as mine always is. So just know that all the animals are getting exceptional care. And it might just not be as beautiful as it will be in the very near future.
Yep, so this is my garage, as you can see. And this is where it all starts. You walk in right here, I have my tortoise pen with, let's see, there's one of the radiateds right there.
Cool.
Leopard tortoise over there. So, oh, there's a house gecko over there in the corner. House gecko infestation in my back, or in my garage right now. There's that guy. And so, basically, I have a greenhouse tarp covering this to help hold in the humidity. You know, California, very, very dry. So I built this myself, and coincidentally, I was able to find this tarp that fits perfectly over this.
That's
So
awesome.
that's solved. Moving over here, this is my baby rack. So I have all my newly hatched womas in here. So somebody made a mess. Where's this guy? Yep, so there's one of the babies back there. And so I got 10 of those guys right now. 5 are already eating, and hopefully more on the way. And then, so moving up here, I got my green tree enclosures. And so this is, sorry for the dirty glass.
Oh, no problem.
So these are right here, emerald tree monitors. That's the boy, Marvin. And so this is kind of like my usual setup right here. I have my Mist King nozzle right there, and it's set to go off 3 times a day to keep up the humidity. I have 2 of my heating fixtures right there, and those are the, right here you have the probes, the sensors that basically regulate. You can see it's maintaining right now, dimming the bulb. I have one of my outdated T8 UV bulbs right here. These guys are actually slated for, I'm going to do a larger enclosure. I'm actually just waiting for the glass on to house both the male and female together. So that's those guys. And then down here is Piper, albino Colombian iguana
Nice.
from Tom Crutchfield. He's a giant baby. So he's one of my favorite guys, definitely. So this guy was from 2015. I actually got him at the Daytona show. Okay, fine. The Daytona show, which is probably one of my favorite reptile shows. So there's that. Here's a just recently completed enclosure. This is the new design I did. And just waiting for the glass. And so that's where this guy, Appleby, is moving. So this is Appleby. And he is hissy little guy. He's a Cape Banded white throat monitor. Very, very beautiful.
How old is he?
He's 2 years old.
Wow.
Still a young guy. I have my fridge, obviously, and all the rodents, some medicine, and other necessities, veggies and whatnot. That's the controller right there that I did. It doesn't have a screen. The screen is a tablet or your phone. Over here are the blue tongues. They're hiding here somewhere. It's a male and a female. Then down below over here, we got Penelope, the rhino iguana.
Woo,
and he's not very friendly.
Beautiful.
Yeah, from Starborn Reptiles, very beautiful animal. Let's see if I can give him a pet. Yeah, there he goes.
Wow.
Yeah, very prehistoric animals.
Oh, yeah. I love.
And again, sorry for the dirty glass. I've given up on this guy because he's actually, they call it snalting. You can see on the glass where they expel through their nostrils extra salt and calcium. Over here on this side is my larger snake rack. So this guy's in shed right now, actually. That's my Sri Lankan cross. Really beautiful snake when not in shed. I have another blue tongue in there, and then this is my green berm right there. This one I'm hoping to breed with my albino, my big albino girl. So yeah, I have downsized my snakes a little bit, but I have my sidewinder right here. Awesome little snake.
Nice.
And then down over here we have Esteban, Chuckwalla. Apparently he doesn't want to be on film right now.
Aww.
And then down here we have Mrs. Croc Monitor, just hanging out.
Nice.
And she has her moments. She's getting there. I've been working with her a lot more lately. Very, very beautiful, intelligent animals. Then moving on down here, just some smaller enclosures. I got a Euromastix and then a Yucatan spiny iguana. So that's the whole garage. And then this is the actual reptile room. And so this is where I keep most of like my humid loving animals. I have my Shinosaurus in here. They're currently not out. They're in the water somewhere. Over here I got poor Jeffrey. He's burning up in the 82-degre weather. So he's in his water dish. Those guys don't really like heat for some reason, I've noticed. I have here's the Bell's Lace, who has all but destroyed his cage, which is fine because I have a cage waiting for him to be moved in. That's why I kind of let it go. You can see the bulb is almost coming off there, but yes, hi girl. But yeah, she's going in a nice new big enclosure, and I'm hoping to eventually get her outside which I think is actually pretty doable because they can tolerate some colder temperatures. Let's see. I have some of my tegus in here. My platinum blue tegu. That's Booger right there. Just lazing around. And then I have my Paraguayan tegu further, probably buried over there somewhere. And down here is my Papuan python.
Cool.
Yeah, this guy's really beautiful. Down here, I have the albino olives. That's the male right there, and he's a bit ornery. And the female's back there, hanging out. They just ate, so I don't know what they're so interested in. Yeah, he just bit the phone. Come on, dude. Come on. Can you not do that, please? You're embarrassing me. Come on. There we go.
I was remark on how well behaved everyone was being.
Yeah, they usually are after they eat, which they did do, so they shouldn't be too fuzzy. And then up here we got also from Starborn Reptiles, my Louisi cross.
Nice.
Very beautiful animal. He's got a lot of blue on his face. I love this guy. He's got a little bit of an attitude, but he's not too bad. Nothing that a little bit of chin rub can't fix.
Oh, yeah. That's where it is.
All right, so moving along. And down here, albino T-positive water monitor.
Woo, beautiful.
From Nerd. This guy is awesome. I love him.
My Asian.
I try and raise up most of my hatchling monitors on an all insect diet.
Okay.
And then start them on rodents later on. I just feel like they have a much better growth rate with insects. Let's see. So here's that's my male Woma python, George. And I think his girlfriend's in here somewhere. Buttercup. Here's Twinkie.
Woo. He's beautiful.
Yeah, so this is my big baby right here. She's really hungry. She's got a rabbit defrosting as we speak, actually.
Twinkie.
Yeah, she comes out quite often to hang out. She's very personable. I have my Geomyda spangleri set up right here. They like it very humid. And I don't know if you can see them in there.
Yeah.
Also very, very beautiful, awesome turtles. Critically endangered. Hoping to have some success breeding those guys in the future. Bearded dragon just because. I got Scrambles the Death Dealer, my Southern Pacific rattlesnake I caught in my garage.
Beautiful.
Raised them up for my baby. And oh wow, it's pretty toasty in here.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much my setup. I have my crested geckos also just for shits and giggles.
Cool.
This room is really nice just because it's basically a basement. It's completely insulated. I'm gonna go ahead and I have a crawl space as well. That's where all the garbage goes. So.
Oh, cool.
So I'm able to open this up and kind of air it out a little bit. That definitely helps. And then I can also close the door over here, and that'll help keep in the humidity and bring down the temperature a little bit. So that really helps. So that's pretty much that's the indoor setups. I can take you out back and show you some of the stuff outdoors.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
Little fish tank for some feeder fish that I feed to my something like the water monitor and such. So So that's essentially the indoor setup right there. Feel free to ask any questions or any remarks or anything.
Well, you obviously use your space widely. It looked like maybe you had a couple
Yes.
professional racks, but then the rest of the stuff it looks like you've primarily built.
Yeah. So I kind of tried to shy away from the racks just because, I mean, like that green berm, you see just how beautiful the animal is. And it's almost a shame to me keeping them in a rack where you don't really get to see their beauty very often, you know?
Right.
So that's why after a certain point, I end up building a cage for most of my snakes and just having them in regular enclosures just so I can show off their beauty and also, so they can stretch out a little bit better. I have
Right.
nothing against racks by any means. I just think that after a certain size, they kind of, you know, need to be moved into something a little bit better.
Yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from. I keep a lot of my stuff in racks, but I mean, some of my racks are like 8-foot sliding tubs.
Right.
You
And
know?
that's what I have too, like the big melamine rack over here. We
Yeah.
call it the Christmas tree rack. It's like those big,
Yeah.
like 4-foot Christmas tree tubs that I
Yeah.
use for them.
I lie. Yeah, my sliding ones are probably 4 foot. My big retic cages, my biggest retics, their cages they're like 8 feet by, I don't know, like I can sit up inside the cages. That's how tall they are. And
Right.
I can they're way longer than me. I have to go inside and walk, like crawl from one end to the other to clean it. But I mean, those are unusually large. And then my biggest monitor, who's not that big, he lives in that top cage, which it's the same width, but it's not as tall. And then in the summertime,
Right.
the huge outdoor enclosure. So
Right.
I like to give my animals as much room as I can, but honestly, a lot of our stuff is just racks on top of racks. But it's primarily like milk snakes and ball pythons and stuff like
So
that.
smaller,
Yeah,
smaller species that can be
right.
kept no problem in there.
So, yeah. So, tell me a little bit about your process for how you built your outdoor enclosures, and if we could see any of those, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, they're super easy just because if you go to Home Depot, they have, for whatever reason, a dog kennel. They have two different dog kennels, which are one is 4 by 4 by 6 feet tall, and why a dog would need a 6 foot tall kennel is besides me. But and then they also have another version that's 8 foot by 4 foot by 6 foot, and they're kind of modular, so you can combine them and everything like that.
Right.
So that's kind of what I did. You use that as a base, and all you really need to do is I poured concrete underneath all of my cages just so that they can't escape. And I have also you just zip tie or sorry, you chicken wire off the open top, and you're pretty much good to go. And so for my heated boxes, what I ended up doing is I cut out part of the kennel and attached. I believe it's a 3 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot box, which is their heated box that they go into at night. That I lock them inside, and so that's kind of my outdoor setup. Just to explain it. So let me go outside. Right. Normally I'd go through the garage. I don't want to wake my kid up though. So.
Oh yeah. Do you have anything that's able to live outdoors year round where you're at with some heat?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
I said, do you have any animals, beautiful home, that are able to live outdoors year round with some heat?
Oh yeah, yeah. I have. Oh, sorry. 1 second. I thought you had it. Sorry, give me 1 second.
No problem.
I gotta run back to the garage. So all of my animals that are outside, I keep them outdoors year round, and that's where the heated boxes come into play. Is even on cold, rainy winter days, it's not a problem. They just stay in there and keep warm. So yeah, and I haven't had any issues keeping them outside. Never had any issues with other animals getting to them, or any escapes, luckily.
That is good, yeah.
Okay, so over here I have and right now it's just the female in there because oh, yep, that's a nice tail whip from Scarlet. And so you can see up there, she's got her heeple, the guard, and then there's also one of those tortoise heat pads right underneath there. So that's where she gets the heat from. She broke her door off, but I basically just barricade her in there at night. So that's the heated box right there. And it opens from the top right over here.
Okay.
Also inside there, I have my controller that controls the heat. Here's the Big Lebowski, the Aldabra.
Nice.
Just hanging out. So this is kind of the enclosure. You know, I have a basking platform over here. Also an area to dig underneath the ramp. Her water dish, big concrete mixing tub, and just a little piece of mesh in there to keep lizards from drowning in it because that happens pretty often.
Yeah.
So this enclosure, I believe, is, I want to say 12 feet by 4 feet by 6 feet tall.
Wow.
So that's for the white throats. And then moving along over here, that's the old Argus monitor.
Cool.
And so she has a little bit more of a simplified enclosure just because she actually fell and broke, or not broke, she fractured one of her vertebrae in her neck and broke her collarbone. So she no longer has access. She lost privilege of the basking platform. So now she just keeps it easy down here. So that's those guys. And then over here I have my heated house for the Aldabra. Nothing special, just some cinder blocks and a piece of plywood on top. Got the heat up in there. And so there is my hillside. Got my tortoise pens. And then you want to cage up there. So here is Popeye. She's a rescue green iguana. Not very friendly, as you can see. So kind of same idea. You know, she has her heated box, except it's hung off the side. And then, so I have locks on all of my cages normally. Then down here, one of my tortoise boxes. I have an elongated tortoise in here somewhere. Then moving onto the side, my redfoot, and here's his heated box. Your probe came out. And so this is the general setup I have. I'm hoping to clear off the rest of the hillside and do some more tortoise pens over here. And then up here, I'm hoping to do some more lizard enclosures. So there's always something to be worked on. And
I think
eventually what I want to do is get like a misting system set up to try and keep the humidity up. I'm going to do a overhead one. I just got to still figure out how to heat the water, because I don't want cold water, hitting the animal on a cold day. So
Oh, that's true.
definitely want to avoid that. And yeah,
like
there's my
your warning sign.
warning sign. Yeah, for any intruders. So yeah, that's the gist right there. And then I guess I also have this is the tortoise plantain, where I have like my Russian tortoise, my breeding pair. They're in here somewhere. I have all my Mediterranean species in here. It's just a nice planted area for them to hang out in. And here's their heated box. Same kind of deal. They all get closed up and locked in at night just so that nothing can come in and mess with them, and they don't accidentally go outside and freeze to death.
I was wondering if you have to manually kind of put them all in the evening, or do they all sort of go to bed when it's cold?
So the good thing is, for the most part, when it is, cooler winter nights, they know to seek out the box, exactly where it is. They know to go inside. Funny enough, sometimes some of the monitors, for their intelligence, they have issues sometimes. Like, I'll catch them, it's raining and freezing outside. I'll catch them on the basking platform, and it's, well, what the hell are you doing? Gotta put them inside the box. So, yeah, there's some things that I have yet to automate, and being able to open and close their heated box doors is something that I would love to be able to do automatically, but have not found a solution just yet.
Yeah. Well, that was
So that's my whole setup. I have my incubators upstairs in my office. Nothing too cool going on in there. Breeding season is pretty much done for me, so got that out of the way.
so. Tell me real quick what you would say to someone who maybe wants to do something, probably not on the scale that you're doing it, but somewhat like it. But basically, they say, well, I don't have unlimited funds, or I don't have unlimited space, or I don't have unlimited time. I have a family. What would you say to those people?
So I would say to definitely try and make do with, the space that you do have. Um, the most helpful thing I've found is being handy. I wouldn't have been able to do any of this stuff by myself if I didn't know how to work with wood and tools and everything.
Right.
Otherwise, I would have spent easily, thousands and thousands of dollars more having somebody make a custom enclosure, as opposed to just running down to Home Depot and Lowe's,
Right.
building everything myself, and exactly to a standard that I find is good. You might have somebody else that'll build it in a weird design, or something that isn't quality. They'll skip out on quality materials. And when you do, I've always kind of been a do-it-yourself guy. I feel like you have a lot more control, and I'm also, I guess, I'm a lot pickier, I've been told. But people that have worked with me, where I can be a little bit stubborn with certain things, and a particular, I have a particular vision, you know, and I definitely like to make sure it's seen that way.
That's good. I think that when you're caring for, when your product or your business is a living animal, I think it's very important to be particular.
Yeah. I mean, these animals, they're not going to survive on their own in those cages. They're here because of us. So I feel like um, they deserve nothing short of the utmost attention and care. And that's where I go. I feel a little bit above and beyond in trying to make sure that they do receive that care, and you know, they're happy, well fed, and well taken care of. I definitely take pride in my image, and you know, kind of trying to give people something to strive for, trying to constantly better their care. You know, not just self improvement, but also improvement of their reptile care as well. Because I feel like, you know, you can easily get stuck into a certain routine and not be able to really expand your horizons. And I think that's very important in growing as a keeper. And I would never call myself an expert just because I learn things every single day, you know, new things. And that's what's important, is being able to, you know, observe, make new observations, and then learn from that, or even try new things, like even as simple as, you know, UV. You know, there's a huge debate right now with reptile people, if it's needed, what kind is needed, how much, you know, how often.
Right.
So there's little things that I like to experiment with, and you know, even though you know, an animal might be, you know, living just fine, it's eating and breeding, doesn't mean that they're in their best environment necessarily. You know, so I'm always trying to upgrade. It's usually about once a year that I will build new cages. I don't have as many animals cycling in and out as I used to, just because, you know, I don't do as many animal sales as I once did. But like I said, that's what I'm focusing right now, is trying to uh, just maximize the usable space that I have, and just upgrade into larger enclosures for everything.
Right. Another thing I would say to someone who's really wanting to kind of expand, but they, you know, they feel like they don't have the resources, is definitely
Hmm.
kind of focus on the animals that you have. Learn as much about
Yes.
them as you can. Spend as much time with them as you can. You know, like you said, there's always more to learn. And it's interesting that you would say that you don't consider yourself an expert because you're always learning, because that's actually a symptom of someone who is at an expert level. A lot of times, these people who kind of feel like they know, that's often the symptoms of a real beginner, even if they've been doing it for a while. A lot of people are just not open minded enough to really grow. I know people who've been keeping animals for
Yeah.
10 years, and when you talk to them, it's just like, I don't want to say there's nothing going on, but they're not open. You know, when you're having, I feel like I can pretty much learn from anyone. I honestly learn from my fourth graders every year. I mean, it's
Hmm.
different people, different
Because
perspectives.
they have an unshaped mind. They're still
Yeah,
open.
I
So
mean, different perspectives, different experiences. You can learn from everyone and everything. So I think um, spending time with the animals that you have, learning more about them, and there's always a kind of a deeper understanding of husbandry than what you currently have. So
right.
someone in the comment feed was saying, if someone doesn't have the resources, keep one animal and care for it the best. And I think
Yeah.
that is also really good advice. I also, on the other hand, feel like mind over matter. A lot of times, the obstacles that are in people's way are the ones that they have kind of,
Put in front of themselves almost sometimes.
yeah, I don't want to say visualize, but it's kind of, you know, it's like, you know, all the things I do, people say, how do you do that? I could never do that. Well, you could if you wanted to, and you could if you just did. Um,
Right. And if you
you
just
know,
put that extra effort, you know. So
exactly. Which
and
that's where
and
the passion
that's
comes in.
yeah. And that's what I feel like should be the standard, you know, always try and put in that extra effort. And I've never, you know, I've never had it turn on me. I've only had good things come from putting in, you know, just going that extra step, or taking that extra hour, you know,
Right.
whatever it takes. So
Yeah, and you know, don't get me wrong. Some nights we're out working in the zoo until 11, 12, 2 a.m. And you know, I only got to sleep for 3 hours before I had to go to work. But to me,
mhm.
I find what I do rewarding, and that includes, you know, the things that I do in my community, the things that I do here at home, you know, the videos that we make and everything. I mean, just our YouTube channel, as I'm sure you probably found out, is a whole nother business in itself, and it's
Oh
essentially
yeah.
a full time. And,
Yeah.
but I feel like regardless of any money or any potential money, the knowledge and the ideas and kind of the love and support that we're putting out into the universe by doing it, to me, makes it worth it.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, there's a lot of, you can skimp in some areas, I mean, I would say besides for the animal itself and the equipment it takes to build an enclosure, I mean, it's very simple. If you do have the know-how, you can go out, with a chainsaw, get some wood, build something up, or even a rock pile. That's free.
Yep,
You can design
exactly.
everything yourself free. All you do is you stick it in the oven for a little bit. Don't tell your wife about it. Make sure you clean it up after the fact. But yeah, you cook everything in the oven for a little bit, sanitize it, and it's ready to go. So,
Right.
you can put something together very inexpensively if you
Oh,
have the
definitely.
know-how.
Well, and a lot of our outdoor enclosures, one side of it is another enclosure or it's reclaimed materials from something else that we, decided we didn't need anymore and stuff like that. It's not,
Right.
I wouldn't say beautiful all the time, but it's very, I'm more about function and the health and wellness of the
Yes.
animal. And it's funny
I.
because, yeah, people really get caught up in the aesthetic of an enclosure, but
Mhm.
my main concern or point is, does it serve the needs of the animal? Yes. Okay. Is it perfectly
Exactly.
beautiful? Maybe not. But I guarantee that animal doesn't care. If they
Mhm.
feel safe, if they feel protected, if they have the temperatures and the humidity and the food and the water that they need and plenty of space, they're happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And yeah, I kind of gave up on the aesthetically pleasing stuff a long time ago. Like if you look at a lot of my cages, you'll see that I've switched out the bottoms of them after they've rotted out. I usually run my equipment into the ground until I forced to part with it, or until an animal outgrows an enclosure. Um, that's when I definitely upgrade. But yeah, you got to make do with what you have. Yeah, you got to make the best of it. Um, Try and be as resourceful as possible. There's lots of different things, even for food, where you can work with your local deli, and stuff, where you can get discounts. You know, Even getting like Rodent Pro. I mean, all the rodent suppliers right now. Everything's online. It's much cheaper. You get it in bulk. It's
Right.
convenient. You get it shipped to your front door. A lot.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of things like that if you look around. For example, I was contacted by a rabbit breeder who she breeds like show rabbits and different things like that. And on occasion, she'll have an animal that, is beyond medical care or whatever.
Right.
I mean, there are different, I don't want to say diseases because it's not a disease, but there's an issue that occurs sometimes where their teeth grow incorrectly, and essentially their
Right.
teeth will curve and grow into their bottom jaw. And so, essentially it'll just continue happening. So, euthanization is, the responsible thing to do. And so she'll donate those
Right.
rights to us. And although I don't enjoy it, my retics and stuff eat those rabbits. And, she said, some of the other breeders will, shoot the rabbits and throw them away or bury them or whatever. And she says, at least, the rabbits are, serving a purpose. And so it's, I really particularly hate feeding rabbits, but I mean, my big snakes, that's what they need. And so, yeah, but there are all kinds of things. Maybe a local grocer that throws out veggies, once a week or something, that maybe they could donate to you if you do tortoises. And I mean, there's stuff, there's opportunity if you go looking for it.
Exactly. And I mean, when you talk about resources, I guess the one that I will say is just absolutely essential with reptiles is finding a good reptile vet. And in
Yes.
some states or areas, it's definitely not an easy thing to do. I've been blessed because the first reptile vet I ever went to was Dr. Attila Molnar at All Animals Vet, and he's saved numerous animals, you know, and I would never go to anybody else. He's a reptile and avian specialist. He goes to all the conferences. He loves his job. He loves the animals that he works with, and having somebody that knowledgeable, that much experience, and that much passion, it's, I mean, you can't ask for anything better when you're working with animals like these, you know? So, and I
Yeah.
know it
No.
can be hard for some people. I hear it all the time. Where do I find a vet that does reptiles? And I would definitely caution, be weary just taking them to a normal vet and expecting them to be able to do something with a reptile, because, I mean, there's a very fine line between, somebody that strictly does just birds and then somebody that does reptiles, or even
Right.
just cats and dogs. You know, I would never take my any of my animals to somebody that only did cats and dogs, because I wouldn't trust them with that.
Well, reptile veterinary medicine is definitely a specialized field. And I've been very lucky that even though I live in a very small, rural, isolated area, I have several vets that I call on that are, most of them friends that I have a wildlife vet that I refer to. I have people bring me stuff or call me about stuff all the time. Last weekend, I
Mm-hmm.
had a guy who found a bat in some oil. He works in the oil field. And he said, "Can I bring it to you? What do I do?" And right away, I texted my friend who owns the wildlife rehab, who's the vet. She said, "Yeah, have him bring the bat right away." And I mean, they right away. 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, there was a bird in the courtyard at the school I work at. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, they're like, "Go get her, go get her." And I went, I got the bird, and so at the end of the day, people are like, "So what happened with the bird?" And I'm like, "Oh, I took it to the local zoo, arranged for a courier. And they were like, "Oh, really? We thought you would like squirt it with water or something." Like,
Yeah.
try and give it a drink and
and
let it die. I don't know. But yeah, we're very
and
lucky.
along those lines too, is one thing I would definitely not recommend doing is self-diagnosing and trying to fix a certain problem by yourself.
Right.
Where some things, where it's simple enough, with bandaging up a wound or something like that, or remedying a calcium deficiency, that's simple enough to do on your own. But a lot of the times, I mean, it's better left to a professional. You can research it all you want. You might find the right information online, or you might find a dangerous piece of information that's wrong,
True.
or bad calculations with dosages. I would never risk it. I mean, there's certain things that I can do myself over the years that I've learned, treatment wise, but I would never take my animal to anybody else except for my. So
Awesome.
that would be another great piece of advice I would say people should really try and stick to.
Yeah, definitely. And also, Mark Heinrich lives near us too, a couple hours away, and he's an amazing reptile vet, and he's so awesome. I'm thankful. We call him all the time, so he's really awesome. And then we have a
Mm-hmm.
couple other people too. Well, I I know that your baby's just been napping and your wife's been patient. I've held you hostage for an hour and a half.
Yeah,
So
well, thank you for having me. This was a fun talk we had. I'm glad. I'm always hoping to spread awareness and share some of my knowledge. My people. I'm sure if you buy from me, because probably end up being pals.
yeah, definitely. So
Humor, just every single one of them. Very involved. Uh-huh.
So if people want to reach you to maybe see what you have available, what's the best way? Just your Facebook page? Of course, I'm going to link your channel because you do have some videos. Do you have a website or anything?
My, yeah.
You broke up for a second. Were you
Oh,
saying
no
your
website. I don't want to get a little bit with sometimes fun. Also, if you mess me on Instagram, are we having connection issues?
Yeah, I lost you for just a minute there. So, were you saying that you don't have a website to go to Facebook?
Yeah. So Facebook, Instagram. I'm a little bit more active on Instagram.
Okay.
I've kind of shied away from Facebook after the animal,
Yeah.
the animal sales thing.
Right.
So, um, Instagram classifieds. So that's fine. Unfortunately, YouTube, there's material on like some things I have on there. There's definitely change that made in that paralyzed with some of these species. Uh, you know, they're so diverse that I wouldn't recommend treating all of them the same.
Right. Well, again, I want to thank you for being here with us today. And I'm going to link your Facebook and your Instagram page. A couple more people. Gotta love carpet pythons. Andrew from DEA Exotics, Silly Snakes, Hadley's Arachnids, Arturo from Mexico. I'm not sure how to say this name. Saursi Justice have all been on here chatting it up. So I want to thank you guys. Let's see. I'm going to try this name. Euclides, maybe? I'm not sure. So they've all been on here visiting with us. So thank you guys who all were here. Of course, whoever missed the live, this is going to be on the channel. Thank you so much for being here with me today, Michael. I think you were amazing, and we got to see all your beautiful critters. So I'll let you get back to it now, and let's keep in touch. Well, I think we might have.
Right.
Oh,
We'll talk soon.
awesome. Thanks, Michael. Everyone have a good evening.
Guys.